I
I
just
think
have
I'm
to
pretty
say
good.
before we officially start, I feel like there are a lot of you guys have a lot of beards in this right now. That all of you have a beard, and I'm just sitting here completely beardless. So I just have to point it out that this is like a beard club that I feel like an intruder on. So thank you for having me.
That might be for the best, though. It'd be weird if you had a beard. I don't
No,
know.
I
Maybe you
mean-
could pull it off.
Well, like the lady from that one movie, The Greatest Showman, she did it. She rocked it.
Okay.
Cassie would have a rainbow beard, so be
It's true.
awesome.
I
That's
would.
true. Okay.
All right. Sorry, I wrote a note saying ad goes here, and it threw my brain off. All
Also,
right.
thank you, Cassie, for that inevitable outtake after the end credits. Perfect.
You're welcome. That's what I'm here for.
Welcome to Dead Headspace. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and all other major platforms, which now includes Ghana, India's largest streaming commercial service. I'm your host, Patrick R. McDonough, joined always by my co-host, Brennan LaFaro. Say hi, Brennan.
Hello.
And today we have a very special situation. We got our first guest host, Cassie Daley. Say hi, Cassie.
Hi.
And we are talking with our guest, Zach Ashford. Hello, sir.
G'day, how are you?
Doing pretty good. We're playing with 3 people now, so whoever wants to jump in to ask the base question, or really any question, feel free.
I'll jump in. Perfect. So Zachary, usually we start off talking to people and we want to know what got you into horror. Movies, literature, whichever way you want to take it.
Yeah, okay. It's a good question. It's one that sort of comes up a lot. So I end up thinking about it a lot. And it's hard to know exactly because I think what I've sort of brought it down to is as a kid, you love, I don't know, am I too loud? I feel like I'm loud. But like the Greek mythology, the fantasy stories that you read as a kid, I always loved when the monsters came out in those stories, the Hydra, the Minotaur, all that kind of stuff. And I think from there, it's just kind of this natural evolution. I really got into those Monster in My Pocket toys when I was a kid. I loved those. And then, just all these kinds of things. And when my mum was always like, we'll go to the library, and I was always getting, those books about the supernatural or witches or werewolves or, because I grew up in England until I was sort of 8 to 12, that sort of age, moved backwards and forwards from Australia a bit, the panthers and things and the Moors in England, all that kind of stuff. And I don't know, I just think it sort of evolves from there. Mum had a whole bunch of Stephen King novels on the shelf as a kid, so that was always kind of really cool to sort of get into. And then just, rad movies like The Thing. And comics, I really got into Marvel comics as a kid, as everyone sort of did. And I remember going into the cheap store one day and there was a pack, and it was I don't know if you remember the Midnight Suns that Marvel had. You had sort of Blade, the Night Stalkers, and, Morbius, those kinds of guys in there. And it was just
is Ghost Rider? I'm sorry, I'm jumping in on you. Is Ghost Rider included in that?
Ghost Rider was one of those guys.
Yeah.
Ghost Rider, I think his name was. And so all those guys, it was like superhero comics, but it was supernatural as well. So that was really rad. And then I think the other part of that is metal. I've always found metal and horror is just so intrinsically linked. And, I love a good metal song that's about a werewolf, that sort of stuff. So, yeah, I love that. So I think that's probably it.
I really love that you mentioned the Stephen King books, because I liked the inscription that you had for Soul Survivor where it says like that you still have all of your mom's books, and I thought that was really sweet because I mean my parents don't do a lot of reading, but I was like, man, if my mom read, like I would borrow her books and keep them, and that would be really, really adorable. And I really liked that note.
Yeah, it was. I guess it was something important because I don't know. This will sound. It's not that sad because it's sort of a long time ago. But when we lost Mum quite early, maybe 5-6 years ago, she was only in her 50s, and it was a real surprise. But when we were sort of cleaning everything out, I was like, no, those books are coming with me, because it was just one of the things that was always there. And they're actually a lot of them. I don't know if you can see the shelf over there, but that tall one, they're all sort of on there. And it was just a great way to get into reading because, kids at school would be reading sort of Roald Dahl And I was like, man, I'm reading this thing about this guy. He's got a pseudonym and he's killing people. And it was just awesome, you know. So yeah, really appreciated that.
I know we're going to talk about Soul Survivor, but I'm jumping way ahead to one part. It's not going to ruin anything. Where basically the setup for no one that's seen it. Where at a island, there's a group of people. Other people are missing or gone or not with the main group, and one of them says that they saw. And I'm paraphrasing, so forgive me if I fuck up what happens in your book, but
you gave me your life, man. It's all good.
One person talks about two people having sex, and another one says that they're gonna masturbate while those two are having sex, and there's a third person that says, "Righto, I'm out." That made me laugh my fucking ass off. You said "righty-o." Like, that's what a polite way to say "okay, creep."
Yeah, like I really like the Rats, the James Herbert story. And I always just like, I get to those scenes in those books and I'm just like, what the hell, man? This is so over the top. Like, who really wants to read this I'm the same in movies. The wife loves Outlander. Or even, you know, when we'd watch Game of Thrones and I'd be like, oh my God, there's now a 10-minute like scene. Can we just fast forward this and get back to the story? But, and I always kind of found that kind of funny. And then, because I was sort of said before, I really wanted to sort of parody the kinds of people you get on these reality TV shows, these kind of all these really young, beautiful, dumb people who are just often sleazebags on these reality shows. And I just kind of wanted to just think, who are these, you know, these people out there and you know, just try and make something funny. A really crude, crass humor. I think I enjoy that kind of, you know, immature joke. So
I heard in an interview with you and Glenn Parker with Max Booth that you knew someone that was on a show similar to this, some type of reality show. And feel free to talk about that in a moment if you want. But I just had to say that where the street that I grew up on as a kid, this one guy is a few years older than me. He was on The Bachelor. I don't know what season. I don't watch it. But they called his mom, who was my gym teacher, and she was telling my mom all about it. And my mom's like, "You really talked about, you know, put a condom on and stuff like on national television?" And she goes, "That's what the script said." I'm like, I fucking knew it.
Yeah, it's really interesting with reality TV. When my first university degree, I did a communications degree, like so many people do outside of school. Which was, you know, I guess I use it. I use it to go towards my teaching and things like that. But they actually had when Big Brother was new at the time. That's, you know, how old I am. But they had one of the guys there, and he was talking about how there's nothing that's not scripted. It's all set up, and obviously this is all pretty well known stuff these days. But you know, when you're kind of watching it without that knowledge, you really do think all this stuff is just natural, but it's so engineered. It's, you know, it's really interesting to see that kind of stuff.
Like Jersey Shore.
Yeah, I'm sure, you know, apply them with alcohol and put them in a small space together and just watch the chaos unfold. Pretty much the goal there from what I've seen of the ads and snippets I've seen here and there on that one.
That whole genre. So, gosh, I don't remember when it really kind of started up with like Survivor 1. They're on like, I don't know, season 138 now, but it was so different, I suppose. I remember that, you know, watching it was like, you know, you would sit down with the family like an event, and now that seems so strange. I remember because the guy who won the first season was local to the area, and, you know, they were keeping it big and under wraps who the survivor was going to be. And this was the guy, and I think his name was Richard Hatch. This is the guy who ended up going to jail for like tax evasion and stuff like that. But he got in a boatload of trouble because he started on all these renovations on his house. He started adding like wings and building his house into a mansion before the season finale had aired. And I don't think ABC or whoever the fuck was too pleased with that. But that's kind of a cool idea to make that the setting for the book. And, to paraphrase yourself, because this sounds kind of dickish, it does show your age a little bit, like from when that was. And I'll put myself in that boat too to sound slightly less like a dick. But to kind of highlight the time when that was a big deal, and when those kind of shows were so fun, just to see just how horrifically wrong it could go. So I want to know a little bit more about drop bears, because I'm always interested to hear what's relatively familiar to you, but is kind of new to us, halfway across the world.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's probably, they're not like a cryptid, like we have our cryptids, and I was listening to, was it Andrew Cole you were talking to about various cryptids?
He loves that shit, yeah.
Yeah, and it's so cool. And there's always that really cool stuff everywhere. But with drop bears, I couldn't tell you exactly when to start the history of it, but essentially what it is tourists come to Australia and they where's a good place to go for a bushwalk? And the classic kind of joke is, make sure you rub some Vegemite on your ears before you go out there, because the drop bears, it keeps them away. And it just sort of plays on that pop culture myth of all of Australia's wildlife is going to kill you. Which, I got swooped by a magpie just leaving work yesterday. So there's some truth to it. But, it's just such a funny thing because, koalas are so cuddly and cute. And the irony that there could possibly be something like that is just lots of fun. And you really can tease people. I'm a teacher. And one of the things you can do with lots of, because I think you're a teacher too, aren't you, Brennan?
I am.
Yeah, and so you'd know yourself that sometimes you just got to mess with the students a little bit. I don't know how old your guys are, but I've got high school.
They're littler, but that doesn't stop me from messing with them.
Yeah, and it's so much fun because some of those kids, they're so gullible. You can just like, oh yeah, these things are totally real. Make sure when you go out there, and you'll see like half the kids are kind of sniggering and the other half are looking like really terrified about it. But essentially what it is, it's a koala that falls out of a tree and eats people, There is, I've been reading since, there is some evidence that there were carnivorous koalas that did sort of pounce from trees, but whether they were really koalas or just, an early primitive marsupial is, probably fairly different, but that's sort of where they've been likened to. What I wanted to do with mine, when I was writing, I was thinking about, look, it's obviously very tongue-in-cheek, but the idea of just having a koala, it's not a very predatory creature. If you've ever seen one up close, it's not going to, it's got some claws, but it's not going to do too well in a fight. A lot of them actually, a dog will just grab them around the midsection and that's it, they're done for. So I thought, in an evolutionary kind of way, I had to make them more terrifying, and that's where kind of the muscles and the tails and things came in. Like a real koala, I don't know, maybe it has a stump for a tail, but they don't have tails or anything like that. So
I mean, you did a really good job, because I was terrified and I wasn't completely sure that, I'm going to tell you, I didn't know what drop bears were. I didn't know that was a thing. And so I was reading it and I Googled it because I was like, oh, is this just another name for a koala? And I went on like this wormhole of reading that I was not prepared for. And they're terrifying, and you made them terrifying to me. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to have nightmares about these creatures now. Thanks.
There you go. So I guess the next time you're in the forest, just, or on a walk, just look up if you hear rustling in the trees. That could be them. So.
Oh my God.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. And yeah, I guess that was the goal, just a way to make them predatory. And I had to have some similarities to monkeys. So some of them are calling them like monkey bears and things. And yeah, I guess that's it. So that's basically what they are.
So for as far as getting it into the Rewind or Die series, I'm wondering what came first, the series or the novel? Is this something you wrote with the series in mind, or had you been bouncing this around a while?
Yeah, look, it's a bit of a combination. I've sort of had, as part of my original degree at uni, I did do a writing degree, and I'd always had this idea, going back to when reality TV was fairly fresh, of having this idea of people who didn't know they were on a reality TV, which isn't really that novel. It's happened, many times. But I also kind of wanted to get drop bears in. I was sort of on a bit of a kick of Australian wildlife and how you can use that sort of stuff in cheesy fiction. And when I saw there was a Rewind or Die call from Eddie, I was just like, I just put the two ideas together, and I wish I could say it was sort of an epiphany or something. But it was just kind of a contrived idea to get something that I thought was a pretty 80s style horror movie monster into a story that I thought would be amusing and cheesy and interesting. So. Yeah.
I thought it was funny, though, because it fits the theme of what that whole series does so well. It's, around that, 100 to 150 page mark, it's got, the brutal, gory monsters, but it's also got kind of that element of humor to it. And I feel like that series did a nice job of really bringing in a whole bunch of books that all fit that. But again, they're all different. I mean, there's going to be 20 of those. I don't think any of the other ones are going to have killer koalas in them. And you could look at all the, ones that kind of bookend yours, and they're going to have kind of those unique aspects as well.
Yeah, I really love the series. I'm up to, I think, Nico's. Nick, I think that's how you say her name. I hope that's not wrong, and I apologise if it is. But yeah, it is, and it's so much fun. I mean, we watch a lot of 80s horror movies here because I kind of insist, and the wife just goes along with it, I think. And so what we'll usually do is we'll watch something new and good, and then we'll bust out something old and good, But that's the thing, and it kind of comes back to a lot of the metal stuff as well. It's not supposed to be taken so seriously a lot of the time. Like, it is over the top and it is extreme, and there's a very tongue-in-cheek kind of mentality behind a lot of that. And that's why I love a lot of those 80s movies. You're looking at them. Last night we watched Cellar Dweller, and it's really kind of a subjectively terrible film. But it's so enjoyable as well. This whole idea a guy has, killed himself drawing a comic book based on, a supernatural book where the monster comes, and it's so far in the realm of fantasy, and it's just kind of gloriously. I keep saying the word cheesy, but that's what it is, and I think there's a lot of fun to that. Even we went through all the Friday the 13th movies over a couple of months recently, and that was a bit of a marathon, and just the fact that there's the timelines in there, like, what is going on with that timeline, and is it trying to be funny? Is it trying to be scary? It's just watch it, entertain it, take your brain out, and I think there's a real place for that in horror. I mean, obviously there's a different place as well, which is, hey, some of this stuff is like, we watched Antebellum, and, like, legitimately terrifying and powerful. It's and that's what I love. This genre is it's so wide. You can pretty much go anywhere with it, and so many authors are doing so many great things. Whether it's that that quiet horror, the cosmic horror, the mad scientist kind of thing. I just love how wide open it is for interpretation. But yeah, to go back to the point, Rewind or Die. They've nailed it, and I think a lot of Eddie's own stuff is a lot like that. So it's really good to see that he's opened up this series, and it's going to go again, which is going to be really cool because I've got my little, Rewind or Die collector card, just, and I've really got into just reading novellas, to pump that Goodreads list a little bit because, with work, we're all busy, and you kind of, I'm talking way too much, but I just read, I went through Moby Dick, and it was such a slog, and I know that book is kind of famously a slog, but it's so good to just grab a small book, blast through it, that was awesome. Where's my next one? And I think Eddie does that really well with the series, and the authors in there I've read. Some of those are just such great stories already. I said I'm only 4 or 5 books in, so yeah, it's fantastic.
Is there any in particular that you'd like to talk about?
I really liked Hailey Piper's one, Benny Hill. That was great. That felt like watching a movie, That was really cool. And also Jessica Guest's book. That was really good too. I really liked that. That something so entertaining about an enclosed space where people are trying to kill each other, and in a short blast, it's just so good and easy to read. So, and that's what you want. Sometimes you kind of get really bogged down in whether something's literary or not, but at the end of the day, it's entertainment.
Yeah,
and that's perfect. So. Yeah, that's.
How did it feel when you got the acceptance from Eddie?
Oh man, that was huge because it's my first one. I've had a few short stories accepted, and I remember we were actually walking out the door to go to work. And until this year, my wife and I, we worked in the same staff room, same school. She's a teacher as well, so I was just checked with my phone email as we do before you go, and I'm just like, oh, hang on a minute. And you had to keep it secret as well for a while. Don't tell anyone. So kind of just waiting on that and getting to work and just being like, yeah, this is so cool. But no, it's a real kind of Leighton Hewitt fist pump moment, yeah, really, really exciting. I know that the book isn't perfect, but it was a really good moment, and hopefully it's something I can build on and get more out there. So that's always good.
I think it does exactly what you were trying for it to, seeking for it to do, which was just have a fun, pulpy novella. And the blood was great. The scenes that you have where people get massacred was fun. I mean, I liked it. I thought it was a good story.
The whole opening chapter really just kind of sets the tone for it. You're like, you get to the end of chapter 1, you're like, oh, fuck, this is what I'm reading. Okay. All right, let's do it.
Yeah, no, thanks. Yeah, definitely. That's all I wanted, just that fast start. But if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it in that way that really is kind of, let's just get going. The kind of movie I might like to watch it's very splattery, I think. I don't know if it's what most people would see as splatter, but also I haven't used that word with any intention. But yeah, just to blood and gut story with creature features.
I mean, with the amount of guts that are spraying everywhere, I feel like splatter is a pretty applicable term. And it wasn't even not in just this one, but in your other ones too, I noticed. But I mean, especially in this one, like Brennan mentioned in the first opening part, you are so good at writing really gross, gruesome, gory, just disgusting stuff that I don't want to spoil it for any listeners who haven't read your stories or the ones published by Domain. I don't want to spoil anything, but I will say there are some scenes with animals, with people, with guts, with deaths that they got me. While I was reading, they really, really got me. How did you do that? How are you so good at writing that? Because I can't do that. I can't get that gross stuff.
Thank you. I just kind of think about grossing myself out with it, what would I hate to see? I'm actually not really good at like movies like Saw, or those kinds of like the gore porn stuff. I'm really I actually cringe that kind of stuff. And I know the books probably give a very different impression, but I'm not real great with that. So I just think what is horrible, and in the Domain one with the opening with the dogs,
yeah.
I love dogs so much. I want to make that really clear, but I was like, what would be the most horrifying thing you could possibly find? This is actually the only period of my life we haven't had dogs around, and I'm always saying to Moans, we got to get a dog, but it's, we both work so much, we're never here, and it's, it's not fair. But yeah, and so I just think, what would I hate to see? What is gross? What kind of... Sorry, my Google is just making a noise. Yeah, just if I can gross myself out, I'm pretty sure it'll gross most people out. And yeah, I know that feeling. I think I was reading one of Michael Patrick Hicks' books, and I got to a moment there, and I was like, "Oh, this is too much." So, I guess if it had that effect, it worked. So, yeah, that's
I really love that answer, because when I read something that is very graphic and even bordering on over the top, I always kind of picture the author writing it and letting off a maniacal laugh, picturing the look on somebody like Cassie's face as they encounter it. So to know that you're kind of sitting there writing and like you're typing sentence by sentence, trying not to let your gag reflex go, that's
Yeah.
that's a funny mental image for me.
Awesome. I'm glad you enjoyed that. I mean, I think one of the things I'm really, really like, I don't know if you've ever seen these videos where like the pimple popping and all that kind of stuff. Like
I can't do it.
No. And yeah, because I have to do like, I do articles for Aussie Man Reviews website. And the guys who farm out the content, every now and then they'll send me something like that. And I'm just like, I hate you guys. I'm not doing it. And I'll try and write it without looking. And you have to look. And there's usually like a strongly worded response from me in the message saying back like, F you guys, this isn't cool. Stop doing this.
Can you, for those that are unaware, can you tell everyone what that website in Nerd Bastards is as well?
Yeah, Nerd Bastards is just a pop culture website. They've had a lot of changes and things, and it's kind of got bought out. I don't know the full ins and outs, but there's a long story there. It was very successful long before I ever had anything on there. But it was just kind of a website that was all about pop culture and, the stereotypically nerdy kinds of pop culture, sci-fi, fantasy, horror, comic books, video games, that kind of stuff. And so they just, they were looking for writers at one point, and I wrote a few things there. And that was interesting to do. It was fun to do. It was trying to get my name out there a little bit, but it was kind of time consuming. But Aussie Man Reviews, I've been writing for those guys for a long time now. Aussie Man is a YouTuber, and what he does is he just commentates videos in a hilarious Australian accent. I think he's really quite popular overseas. I mean, he's well watched here, but we kind of have a bit of a cultural cringe around the Australianism sort of things, but he's very popular with America, or in America as far as I know, and he does some great stuff, some great animal videos where he's just commentating. There's a really famous one. BBC got him to do some animals where it's like the Alan with the meerkats or whatever. It's well, yeah. If you hop online and like he's releasing tons of stuff. He's like 7, 8, 9 million, fans. He's making a good, career out of it. He's done some voiceover stuff here, and he's a really cool guy. And well, he seems to be. I don't know him personally. I should be clear there, but and that's what he does basically. He just has a laugh commentating various kind of YouTube videos and making them more amusing. So
yeah, he's got millions of hits, 4.12 million subscribers. I like how he says fuck. It reminds me of Glenn Parker, how he says fuck.
Yeah, well, fuck. I don't know, is that the accent thing? Glenn says it pretty effectively, though, and he means that shit when he says it. So
he did not
Speaking
curse.
Of, go ahead, Pat.
I believe, I could be wrong. I'll know when I go back to edit it, but we recorded an episode with him last night, and I don't think he said fuck until the first 30 minutes, so he did good.
There you go. Actually, I think when we did the one with Max for Ghoulish, I think when I actually first dropped an F-bomb, he said, "Oh, can we say that here?" And then when Max said, "Yeah, go for it," of course you fucking can. Like it was just open slather, so that was pretty funny. Really swore me under the table, so that's pretty good. I mean, my kids are downstairs at the moment, so I've got to probably keep my voice down if I'm going to be swearing. So, yeah.
I was going to say, when we talked to Glenn last night, he kind of declared himself the foremost expert on koalas. Do you have any reply to that?
No, look, I think it was pretty obvious when I was talking to him. He knew a lot of stuff that I didn't, so he was all over it. So if he wants to be the foremost expert on koalas, I won't challenge him because he'll probably beat me because already we had that conversation. I was like, oh, this guy knows his shit. So
yeah. I was pretty impressed by it. I mean, you could say, oh, of course he lives in Australia, so he knows koalas. But I mean, I don't know 130 facts about the fucking gray squirrels outside my house, or the woodchuck that lives under my shed. I don't know anything about
Wait,
that.
how are you missing the most? Dude, you missed the Bridgewater Triangle. He lives in this thing called the Bridgewater Triangle, and Andy fucking Call, a dude that lives in Australia, knows about it, which is a 200 square mile, basically supernatural area where there's a shitload of sightings from the Grassman, which is Bigfoot, UFOs, devils, snakes, basically the size of anacondas, which doesn't make sense in this climate. Yeah, so you should have brought that up. Sorry.
See, I didn't mention it because I don't technically live in it, so none of the weird shit happens here. The snakes that I see are a foot long and harmless, unlike the Australian ones, which will literally bite your kneecap off. So as I understand it, anyway.
Yeah, look,
and that's terrifying.
Snakes. Look, I have a healthy respect for snakes. When I was a kid, we used to go and catch them a fair bit. So I say kid as a teenager. I actually did a lot of work experience. Every weekend I would go to Steve Irwin's Australia Zoo as a kid and was able to do work experience there because we lived really close by. And that was really cool getting to do that. But then in my own time, my friend Aaron and I would go out trying to find snakes and catch snakes. And that would always be really cool. Every now and then you'd find something and you were like, oh, man, that thing can kill us. Like, get out of the way. But, yeah, look, snakes are, I'm going to say you don't see them. You do see them. Just the other day coming home, it started to warm up here coming into spring. We were coming back from a feed and a movie, and there was a car stopped on the road. I'm like, what's going on here? I've stopped behind it, and there was a big carpet python crossing the road, and they're a pretty common snake, especially around this area. They can grow to 12 foot long, and they're very localized species, but they're all up and down the coast. And we actually, maybe later on, I'll send you the video. The wife took a video of that thing crossing the road. And it was really good just to see people, because I'm always like, people run them over and I hate it, and I'm a real animal lover, and, like I'm the kind of person the wife wants me to kill a spider. I'm like, I'll put it outside for you, I'm not killing it until I get caught a wimp and all this kind of stuff. But so just to see cars stop to let this snake cross the road is just so cool. And I just think that's awesome. I mean, someone's going to find that in their yard in a day or two, but it's...
I can agree with you on the snake. I would stop my car to let the snake cross the road. I find a huntsman spider in my house, though. I'm burning the house down. So I can't get on board with you on. Just all that wildlife. I mean, and again, that's not to say that they're not scary. I was telling a story at work. My first year teaching, I went up to Rockhampton, which is on the central coast of Queensland. You call it a city. I mean, it's not huge by any means, but it's a fairly large Australian city or Queensland city. And there's some, pretty warm up there. Summer you're averaging sort of 40 degrees. The snakes are pretty active, especially out bush. And I'd gone for this bushwalk. I was coming down Mount Archer, and I'd already seen one little snake on the walk, so I was kind of aware of snakes around. And I heard that slithering sound, and when I looked, I was sort of coming down this embankment. There's a creek there. And, man, I could have won the long jump that day, because when I turned my head to see where it was, this big brown snake, I mean, it was literally as thick as my arm, and they could have done these speckles underneath. So, that thing will kill you. And just up S-shape here. And it was literally eye contact for a second. And I now know that the sound I make if I'm ever going to die in a horrifying fashion is... away. I'm not going to call for mum. I'm not going to call for help. I'm just going to make a weird kind of whimpering noise. So that's a good thing to know about yourself.
Yeah. So I've no qualms about saying, I totally cowarded my way out of that one. It was, I think the snake was just scared. It kind of doubled back the other way, and it's cool. But you do see them, and yeah. So.
This is totally unrelated, but I remember one time I was crossing the road and I was on the phone with somebody, and a bus ran a red light and came right at me. And I remember my response was to stop and politely hang up the phone. And I said, "Now I know that about myself. I didn't scream. I didn't try and throw myself at the curb. I don't know what to do with that information, but this is apparently what I did in the face of death. Excuse me, I'm going to have to call you back in a minute. I'm about to get hit by a fucking bus."
Oh my
Oh,
god.
you took it like a man, That's
Yeah. I'm okay. So I guess I can do that with that information. That's cool.
So polite too. I would have just hung up.
I don't. I don't think I actually said anything. I just hung up the phone. It was, I don't know. I don't know what was going through my head besides I'm gonna get hit by a fucking bus. I didn't get hit by the bus, by the way. You might be
Good.
interested to know. Yeah, I am not a
Fortunate.
pancake. Yep. So, Zach, let's talk more about the book you put out with Domain.
Yeah.
So it's a collection of two stories, The Encampment by the Gorge and Blood Memory. So how did that come about? Because kind of like Rewind or Die, they're short, sharp shocks books.
Yeah.
They're very, very well regarded within the community. Just like the Rewind or Die, you kind of have Haley Piper on there, Steve Strett, a whole bunch of really, really good entries.
Yeah. Look, I guess I think the first one I read was Kev Harrison's, and Kev is a really great guy. He actually, I met him. We were on holiday in Europe and going to Portugal, and we caught up with him, and he's just a great dude. But so I just sort of emailed Dean at Domain and just sort of said, "What's the submissions process? Do you want to read anything?" And he told me what he wanted and asked what I had, and I sort of said, "Well, I've got these that you might be interested in." I sent a few stories his way. And he said, "I think these two pair together really quite well." And it really was as simple as that. I mean, Dean's another really great guy. I mean, it helps that he's a Tottenham fan as well. So I don't know if you know your Premier League soccer very much, but that's my team. It always has been. And when I found out he was Tottenham as well, it was just kind of great to see.
Said soccer.
Yeah, I did say soccer. In Australia, officially it's football, but I've been calling it soccer my whole life. And, I guess when I go to England, I see my family, I have to call it football, but whatever. Everyone knows what it is you're talking about. But no, I just sent them in, and these are the ones he liked, and we just went ahead with it, it was interesting because the first story was new to them, and the Crocodile one, Blood Memory, was actually the first story I ever had published. That was published in Darkman Digest first, and that was my first acceptance. And that one, I still have, the contract and the email and all that kind of stuff there. And and I saw you had one that just recently, actually, Patrick. I just saw you. I think the other day you got accepted a story.
Oh, yeah, that's my first one. Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations.
And because he's too modest to talk about it, Patrick's going to have a flash piece in the flash fiction anthology that Cemetery Gates is putting out, I believe, early next year, called Campfire Macabre,
Yep.
a witch story that I had the honor to beta read, and it is fucking awesome.
Oh, dude, that's so good.
I got the idea when my brother-in-law and I were drinking, and he told me about this weird horror theory on Peter Pan. So I'm like, I'm gonna use that.
Yeah, that's great. Can't wait to see him. So that'd be cool. Thank you. That's so good. But yeah, no, and there's just two stories that I really enjoy. I think that even though they kind of do go to the both sort of like upriver kind of stories, I think that one's sort of more traditional kind of narrative, third person sequence, and one's kind of got that first person sort of Heart of Darkness kind of vibe about it, where I always liked at uni when we studied that one. I know it's a kind of problematic story, and that has to be recognised with Heart of Darkness. But some of the things, like when you see the arrows coming towards them in the novel, and they're just there in the face, and you don't have the background of where they came from. All of a sudden, they're just there, and reading that in the first person and the present tense, it's really just, I think it creates a great effect on the reader of being there in the moment. And I kind of tried to replicate that a bit with the Encampment by the Gorge, the first story in there. So, I just really like that style. So they're kind of differently structured, but they're all, encroachment of civilization and monsters and things like that. So
I like you had mentioned earlier on that part of your inspiration and like getting into horror and stuff was about like these big creatures and these like terrifying, scary monsters, and then Blood Memory is like the biggest, scariest, like terrifying crocodile monster. Like, was there a certain inspiration for that specific monster? Like, I feel like there's something behind that story that maybe I personally don't know about, maybe, or I don't know. There seemed to be like some sort of underlying message that I'm not fully in on, and I could be making that up because I'm bananas. I don't know.
yeah, no, I thank you. It's good that you point that out. With Blood Memory and Australia and like everywhere, it's kind of, you've got to be really careful because a lot of like Australia's Indigenous people, like they're their stories, and it's really, kind of touchy ground to sort of go into that kind of territory. We have lots of discussions around whether you should be climbing Uluru and places like that because that's sacred to people, and Australia's Indigenous people treat their culture in that way, especially the verbal culture. Nothing was kind of written down. It was taught through imagery. So I can't say that I totally used anything in that sense. But one of the things that I've always been very conscious of here is, despite the fact that outwardly Australia is a very civilized, modern country, and it is, there are still parts of Australia that live in third world kind of circumstances, and a lot of that's not simply by choice. A lot of that because of systems of oppression that are hugely talked about across the world these days, and I think there's also this very ignorant kind of attitude that, well, that's their choice, and that really kind of bugs me because it's going back a couple of years now, but there was talk at the time with the then Prime Minister just, well, these Indigenous communities, we're shutting off funding, we're shutting off this, they're so far out there, whatever. Like if they want to be part of it, they can move closer. And I just thought that was such a short-sighted and rude, racist attitude, and it really bugged me. But so I really kind of wanted to have a theme that looked at the idea of place there and have something that was kind of strongly thematic. And as I said, that was one of the first stories I really, when I started taking writing seriously in fiction, I wanted to sort of experiment with that, see what I could do with that, while also trying to be respectful with the cultural stuff. And having said that, at the same time, I think the idea that crocodiles have been here so long, remained unchanged. Indigenous Australians are the oldest culture on Earth, and there's sort of records that sort of, talk about how long they've been here in Australia. And crocodiles have remained unchanged, the same. From an evolutionary perspective, they're perfect at what they do. And one of the things that working at Australia Zoo as a kid, you could just see, like, if there was 2 inches of water above the crocodile, they could disappear in it, and you could think, like, some of these things are massive. I don't know if you saw a video the other day online. There's like a 4-meter crocodile kind of porpoising beside a boat, and they can swim as fast as dolphins when they're in the water.
Oh my God.
And they really are just this terrifying predator that's completely, perfectly adapted to the ambush. I've done some boat tours up in the Northern Territory, and it's just amazing. Like the fact that these things can jump so far out of the water and the size of them, like these guys feed them, you probably have the same kind of thing with alligators in the States. But, you don't lean over the side of the boat while you're watching, because and if they've got you, they've got you. And so I just kind of wanted to tell that story. I've always been fascinated by crocodiles and I wanted to do that thematic thing. And I kind of tried to blend the two together, and I've taken a really long-winded approach to telling this.
No, you're good.
So that's what I kind of wanted to do. I wanted to sort of raise that issue. That's why the feature article guy, the journalist in there, he goes out there with the idea of, I'll tell this exotic story, this kind of story that there'll be something interesting and quiche for people to read. And the ranger is kind of like, well, yeah, cool. That while you're doing that, we're doing it really hard. And, things like all the kids in detention in Australia are Aboriginal kids. Things like the arrests for, like it just recently Aboriginal woman died in custody, and it's been a long-going thing where the police cover each other when that happens, and it's the same all over the world in these kind of, originally kind of Commonwealth countries where that institutionalized racism, they look out for each other, and it's just the way it is, and I think that sucks. So.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I that was the sort of messaging that I was picking up from that one. And that is what I meant. So I think it's really cool that you included something that's sort of like a social commentary at the same time as including something that's completely horrifying and something that probably is there like in people's fears, like every time they go out on the water, anytime anybody's in a lake, like anybody going near a river. I mean, so I mentioned this to Brennan and Pat earlier that I was reading it. And I don't know if have you seen Lake Placid, the movie?
Yeah, not for a long time, but I have, yeah.
Yeah, same. Well, it's like 11 years old now, I think. And I haven't seen it in ages. And I was reading your book and I was like, oh my God, I have to go watch Lake Placid now because I remember being so terrified by these creatures and like having such this like, I don't know, like a horrified sort of reverence for them. And I'm from Florida, so there are a lot of gators as well. And it's just like you're saying, they can get huge. They're fast. They're terrifying. I love that you kind of put that with something that's also very incredibly important. They're two different kinds of fears and two different kinds of things that played along together really well in such a short piece of fiction too.
It's 21 years old. It's from 1990.
21? Look, I'm going to tell you guys, I'm really bad at math. And so when I looked up the date, I think I just added it wrong or subtracted wrong.
That movie scared the shit out of me when I was 10. When I saw that when it came out.
Yeah. I remember watching that one. Yeah.
There's 4 sequels too. I just realized that. I didn't know until.
But only one with Bill Pullman.
Yeah.
And there's a really good crocodile one. It's been on. Is it Blackwater? I don't know if you've seen that one. That's a saltwater crocodile one, and it's kind of got a pretty realistic vibe about it. It's supposedly based on a true story. I don't know how many liberties they've taken, but these kind of tourists, they kind of get stranded in this mangrove tree with a saltwater crocodile there, and yeah, that's a great watch as well. The sequel wasn't real good, but that one was excellent. And there are a few good ones. I thought, what was the alligator one recently? All the alligators. There's a really fast one. Yeah, I thought that was great. I know. Yeah, again, you had to suspend your disbelief a few times, but I really like that. Really claustrophobic kind of feeling. So,
Zach, you talked about basically the indigenous people of Australia, how it's a touchy subject because you're I assume, and based off of what you said, you are not in that category. The same thing is true for Native Americans. Just recently, Brennan and I, we are from Massachusetts. There's a few tribes from there, but for me, I don't know about Brennan, for me, the local tribe is called the Wampanoags. And they just had, I think it's like 321 acres as of March 27th, 2020, that they had that land disestablished during a pandemic nonetheless. So they, for some reason, get the short end of the stick all the time, and it's pretty fucked up. And me and Brendan were actually talking about this today, about Columbus. This ties in somehow, don't worry. We get the day off for Christopher Columbus, who's a piece of shit, and I'm quite certain he never touched, he never landed on the soil of America. So I don't know. I think it's time that we focus on the good people that got fucked over. It was their land. And this all ties to your story because that's how I feel. And I don't want to speak for Cassie and Brennan, but that's how I feel about Native Americans. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
It was just such a passionate, like, it was, I was really on board with it.
I'm curious, Cassie. In either Florida or California, do you know if Columbus Day is like a mail stops, everybody gets the day off holiday?
When I was little, I remember, I think that we had school off, but I don't remember it as I got older being a big thing. And I think that is probably because it started being more common knowledge that he was not really as great as they were kind of telling us when we were all really little.
I only ask because my wife is originally from Oregon, and when she moved out here, and the kids have school off, I have work off on that day. She thought that was very strange. They don't even, if it's a holiday out there, nobody really pays attention to it. People don't have it off work. Everybody just kind of lets it go by without comment.
Wow.
Anybody want to break the awkward silence? Or...
Yeah, we have similar
Pat,
discussions
right
here.
down the goddamn time.
No, I'll see that dead air. I'll spot it right away.
Yeah. There's similar conversations here in Australia around Australia Day, which Captain Cook was our, I guess our resident tyrant. And like, for all we talk about, like, there's just no denying the fact that the British were just brutal. And here in Australia, like, I'm imagining it was probably a policy that was pretty stretched far and wide there, but here in Australia, it was to come in and say, well, this land is terra nullius. No one lives here. And these people, they're not people, they're animals. And there was poisonings and all sorts of, horrible things, which, again, are well documented, and I won't sort of go down that rabbit hole because I don't know enough about it. But things like mountains being named after generals who marched, whole tribes of people off the cliffs, and so it's a debate. And over here, a lot of people have taken to calling Australia Day Invasion Day, and every year it sort of comes up like, is it not a little bit short-sighted to celebrate the day in which we colonized or, landed here and started slaughtering everyone as a day of unity, when really that's obviously kind of traumatic and horrific for a large percentage of the population? And I think the answer seems pretty simple. You could say it's a tricky question, but really, like, I think anyone who's got a slightest bit of compassion is going to go, well, maybe we could celebrate a different day in a different way. Like,
that's exactly like hold up, I echoed. That's exactly like Thanksgiving. There is from 1970 on in Plymouth, Massachusetts, same tribe that I talked about earlier, Wampanoags. There's a day called the Day of Mourning, where it's I imagine it's more than just Wampanoag people, but anyone else that I'm sure is passionate about it celebrate. Not celebrate. They protest how it's basically an invasion day, because there's a lot to it, that the date's not what we believe it is, and that there was a lot of slaughtering of other native tribes followed by a feast. And we clearly know what ended up happening to the entire country after. So for anyone interested, I would look up Day of Mourning, Plymouth, Massachusetts protests, because they're really informative. I'm just learning about them now, but I figured that was relatable to what we're talking about. It's fascinating, and it's literally where, quote unquote, birth of America is. So I think it's worth learning about.
Yeah. No, it's across the world, hey? So all in it together, huh?
So as a teacher in Australia, I'm curious, how can you kind of run through how it has been during a pandemic? Because I'm curious how it's been for you compared to Brennan, who's also a teacher.
Yeah. Look, we in Queensland, we don't have it as severe as well. Our lockdown was pretty short, but basically, at the end of our term one, which we have 4 terms. In January, you have the first term, and so end of January, start of February is when term one starts. So in end of term one, we finished a week early, went to holidays a week early, and then I think for the first 5 weeks of term, so for basically 2 months, we were locked down. I know in places of the world where they have it so much worse. We're kind of really lucky here. We had a bit of a scare a while ago here in Queensland, where some people lied on their stat decks coming across the border, and you start to see pockets coming out. And actually, one of their sisters went to like my kids' school, and so you're seeing this stuff happening, and there's still cases in the community. But by and large, for us, it was we were lucky. I actually teach at a private school this year, and so it's really set up with the internet as a means of contact with students at the moment, and it's lucky every student has a laptop, and I'm guessing you have same private schools and public schools in the States, and so it was kind of, I won't say it was easy, because at the same time I actually moved from being a regular classroom teacher to becoming a program leader, which is like an assistant kind of head of department. And I sort of the whole grade 7 to 9, I was overseeing that during that process. And that's my first real leadership position. So it was huge. And picking up new classes, because obviously I came off some senior classes to pick up junior classes, and just trying to engage with students, and the workload was immense. And some people said they want to go back to it, but I wouldn't. I love being in the classroom too much. Having a laugh, teaching kids, seeing that reward at the end of the day. But that was massive, like filming videos and then creating work and all of that. So it didn't go for too long here, thankfully, in my opinion. But yeah, that was pretty much the gist of it. There's still been some things around sports and stuff where you get a positive case and, that school's just played that school in the community, and okay, you guys, none of you are coming this week until we know what's happening. But I've got to be honest, our school has been very responsive. The leadership have been very onto it. They went and they put hand sanitizer completely everywhere, which obviously is not the only solution, but lunch breaks, and this is the hardest thing, is people say, I just keep the kids separate. And you would know yourself, like, I'm at an all boys school as well, and there's a level of intimacy with those boys where they are all over each other all the time, wrestling, fighting, patting each other's butts, all that kind of stuff that young men do, that there's no way you're ever going to police that. And that's hard work, being back in the school. And just being ready that at a moment's notice we could be shut down overnight is what it is for us. But I saw you were saying the other day you're going back to the classroom. Was it this week?
Yeah, we started on Monday, and our hybrid model, basically, the short version is I'm usually at multiple schools. This year I'm only at one school, and at any given time we only have half the student body. So instead of classes of like 22, we've got classes of 11, or sometimes less, because we've got another group of kids that opted to go full remote. And it was a really rough week. I'm fucking exhausted, but it was very, very rewarding, because the kids came in, deer in the headlights, no idea what to do. We're holding their hand, not literally holding their hands because we're not allowed to do that, but leading them, yeah, exactly, leading them through everything, all kinds of like new routines. And day one was tough because everybody's like, you're too nervous to laugh at a joke. They're too nervous to try to do anything. But even by day two, you could tell, and these kids, a lot of them have been in their homes since March. And this is the first time they're seeing their friends, a lot of them. They needed it. So it's been a tough week, but it's been very reassuring that I want to say we're doing the right thing. If we end up with like 30 positive cases in 2 weeks, I can't really back that statement up. But right now it feels like we're doing the right thing.
Yeah, I think that social connect is so important for children, teenagers on such a huge level. And yeah, I mean, you've only got to look. I think the statistics show that things like depression and stuff have been huge. And our guidance counsellor was telling us that this year alone, he's had to talk to more boys than ever before about like serious issues that are scary for those young men, and for everyone who knows them. And that's terrifying. And I sort of reflect on that a bit. I'm sort of a dumb place, but then for all the pop culture kind of idea that 2020 is the worst year ever, and there's no doubt it's a bad year. But when we keep saying this is how bad it is, what is the effect on the young people who they've got to try and see a future? And I think that's a really difficult question for those men, because when they're young, you probably remember yourself, like you're trying to picture where you're going. But if you keep thinking it's the end of the world, it's the end of the world, what have you got? If you're already in like dealing with being 14 in high school and having pimples, or being slightly overweight, or whatever it is, and then you're told that the whole world sucks, and this is going to happen, the fires are going to get you, and the virus is going to get you, and it just made me kind of go, wow, like, do we need to maybe think about how that meme that the 2020 is the worst year ever, and you see it again today, obviously, with the horrible news coming out of the States there, that as adults, we're easily able to go, yeah, it's a bit of a dumpster fire right now. But we can kind of see that, we've had hard times in the past and we come through them. Whereas when you're young, you're not thinking that far ahead, and it's kind of scary for some of those young men and women, no doubt. Sorry, I'm talking about young because I teach an old boys school, as I said, to think, where do we go from here? And I think that's a really interesting kind of, thing we have to consider, is if we keep saying to these guys, well, that's it, it's all downhill from here, what hope do we give them? And I guess genres like horror come in, that people survive traumatic experiences, they come out of it on the other side there, and and I think it is a survivor genre. I think that's brilliant as well. So
I think sorry, Brennan.
No, Cassie, go right ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that's like one of my favorite things about horror, is that its ability to connect people and make them feel less alone and less just like they're suffering not by themselves, and like there are other people out there who are dealing with these things and who can go through such hard, rough. I mean, in horror, oftentimes we see things that are pretty brutal and maybe not the norm in terms of like everyday roughness, but seeing people go through stuff like that, and being able to kind of escape our own problems, that's such a great thing that the genre offers that I don't think is exactly the same for many other genres.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
I don't know where to go from there now. You can go, Brennan.
I was just going to say, we had, as opposed to other years, we were able to push our school year back for the kids and do 2 weeks of training, which a lot of that was learning how to use remote programs. But I was pretty pleased with how much of that was spent having conversations about how to kind of counter exactly what you just said. These kids are scared. They have enough shit going on, and the last thing we need to do is for them to come into school and see it looking like the house at the end of E.T. And just be even more scared and told that you can't touch anything or you're gonna die. So I mean, so much of the conversations we had is, how do we put a positive face? These are kids that we know and we care about, and we haven't gotten to see them in 6 months, and we ended the last school year on such a sour note. What are all the things that we can do to make this as positive an experience as humanly possible? And granted, we're 4 days into the school year, but I feel like we're doing our best, and I feel like a lot of the school districts are doing that, because those young people, be they, the 8 to 10-year-olds that I'm seeing, or the older kids that are coming to teachers like you, they need that positive reassurance. Even if you don't feel it in the depth of your soul that the world is going to be still spinning a year from now, they need to kind of have the same benefits that you and I had when we were in high school, that the world's going to keep spinning and it's worth putting in the effort and, trying to be happy and trying to be yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what's so good about, all the systems can make all the rules, but at the end of the day, people who become teachers, generally speaking, and I think genuinely as well, care about people, and they care about the kids in their care. And we know that for some of those students, home is not a happy place and school is. And it's something that I think most people are pretty conscious of, and making sure, even if they're not told to, they'll make sure kids are looked after. And I think that's really important in society. That whole idea of takes a village, I guess. But yeah.
Let's go to a lighter note, and all I can add to that is that's really interesting to think about the psyche of the younger generation, because for me, I'm just so focused on so much that my boy's almost 10 months. I'm not thinking about what this is gonna. He's with his parents and grandparents every day, so I appreciate you bringing that to at least my attention and a few other people's attention, man. Now, let's focus on you again with what should we expect? Like, what can you tell us of things you are working on, or what maybe you might want to be working on this or next year?
Yeah, sure. Look, at the moment, I've got a couple of things out there. I've got one novella that I've had out. I've had a couple of full manuscript requests on it, and I'm waiting, and I'm hoping, fingers crossed that that's gonna come through. That's a pretty exciting one if it does come out. It's another kind of it's got creatures in it, kind of like lizard monsters, and but then it's kind of like a spin on a home invasion kind of vibe as well, where it's post-apocalyptic and this chick's living out in the forest in a campsite that she used to go to, and she's kind of holed up there, made it a home, and then one day these two other people are there. So I kind of thought, how could I take that idea of that claustrophobic home invasion kind of idea, and then make a good story out of that, while also having some monsters, because I love having monsters there. I'm hoping to have another Short Sharp Shock come through, I also want to put something together and hopefully get another Rewind or Die out there. I think that'd be really cool, because again, it's such a great thing. And other than that, I've been working on a longer, kind of more serious novel for a while, and it keeps getting put aside because this year has been huge, as we talk about like work, and I got married to my beautiful wife now this year, and
Congratulations, by the way.
yeah, thanks, man. And all these kinds of things that life gets in the way. So I'm hoping to have some news coming out soon to say, yep, this is going ahead. But at the moment, it's been pretty quiet. I did have one story go up a little while ago, and then it turned out that whoever was publishing it was a horrible racist, and the website went down.
Oh my!
And it's just like, okay, well, find somewhere else for that. So yeah, it's been an interesting year, and it's been a good year. Like, if you had sort of said a year ago, 2 years ago, that I'd have 50 reviews on Goodreads, I'd be like, get out of here, that's amazing, and just this idea that there's actually real books out there with my name on them, that's really cool, and it makes me kind of really proud and happy with myself, and I think it makes everyone in that situation really happy with themselves, and it's just kind of awesome to see, and I'm hoping for more. If it doesn't, it doesn't, but I'm still writing stuff, still plugging away, and still trying to write cool stories and keep things interesting. I think I'm getting better as a writer, so that's what I want to do. I've always been sort of radio and freelancing and that kind of stuff, but actually pursuing fiction as a specific area is, it's a new learning curve. It's not like you can just take every single field within an area and make it perfect, so yeah, but that's it. So I'm hoping a couple of those things come through. And if not, maybe I have to look at some questions and say, is it worth releasing myself? Because it's competitive, and it's had two kind of full requests now, and yeah, so I'm thinking positively about that. And if not, then hopefully I'll go for a third time and see what happens there.
Good for you, though. Yeah. I'm hoping that comes through for you. So, as far as your writing schedule, do you have a writing schedule? Do you just kind of squeeze it in where you can?
Yeah, look, my schedule is probably a little busier than it should be. By the time the wife is always telling me, dude, sleep. So yeah, I guess I try to generally, like, this is holidays now. We just started the first day of our holidays for 2 weeks today. So I'm hoping to really push through a first draft in this 2 weeks. And I don't know why my phone's doing that again, sorry. But usually I'll come home, I'll do my schoolwork, and then I'll have some articles to write for Aussie Man. I'll usually spend an hour or two doing that. And on a busy week, I'll have like 15 articles to write. And then I'll try and squeeze in maybe an hour of writing on a weeknight. Otherwise, it's a weekend or a couple of weekends. It's been pretty slow this year. But just recently I finished 2. I sent another short story off for the Spawn call for IFWG, pregnancy and babies, and hopefully that comes through. You know, hopefully everything comes through. That's the goal.
That is the goal.
Yes, that's my schedule. Is basically squeeze in when I can, but try and commit time without alienating everyone in my life. So that's as much time as I can reasonably afford, I guess.
It's admirable.
Thanks.
So that is exciting. I would like to read more about you. I would love to know if you have any books that you would personally recommend.
Oh, man. This year I have had a pretty good year because I changed my workplace. I'm in the car a lot now, and I've got all 4 apps from the library on my phone for audiobooks. And this year I read D.I. Russell's book. What's that called? I'll have to look up the name of it. I'm having a total mind blank. But
Afraid I can't
awesome.
help you, yeah.
Yeah, that was really good. My mouse to work. I'll see if I can just find it quickly. Sorry, I don't know if you can still see
me.
me.
On the spot or anything.
No, that's all right. That was really good. I really enjoy Max Booth's work, as I think everyone does. He's very good.
And one of the silliest bastards I've ever talked to.
Yeah, he's amusing, isn't he? Stephen Graham Jones' book, that was fantastic.
The Good Indian?
Yeah. Only Good Indian, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, my apologies.
Really good. Gwendolyn Keist, is that her name? Sorry.
I think it's Keist.
I thought it was Kist. I don't know.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
She's wonderful.
She is a lovely person.
I read The Rust Maidens, and that blew me away. I was like, that's really kind of on a Margaret Atwood kind of level, the writing in there. I thought it was brilliant. God, there's so many. I'll just have a look at my list and see what pops out. Kev Harrison's book was really cool. And again, as I said before, he's just a really nice guy. So he's well worth it. He's got a new one just came out. Cloud in the Cornfield, Adam Caesar's stuff is always really good. God, here we go. What have I read this year? So much.
Just scrolling through the good reads.
Yeah. The Wolf Hunt books, Jeff Strand. That's so good. I read The Cipher. That was brilliant. Grady Hendrix's book. Scream Ride is D.I. Russell's one. That's what I came here for. And P. Kingfisher's one, the Twisted Ones as well. I thought that was fantastic. So, yeah.
I'm hearing all these books scroll by that you're mentioning that I either have on my shelf or on my wish list that I definitely plan to get to someday.
Yeah, it's so hard to keep up with them all. Hey, and as I said, if it wasn't for audiobooks, I'd be a lot further behind this year, but that's been a really, really cool thing. I've tried to throw in a few classics as well. So obviously I did the Moby Dick, as I mentioned before. Some of the Rewind or Die ones are not their classics. But the Iliad and the Odyssey is really good to read or listen to. The Iliad and the Odyssey, Homer. To actually read the original, or not the original, the translated version, that was really interesting to go through. And it's funny, a lot of these guys we see as these big Greek heroes, like Achilles, he's like, oh man, he's just such a whinger. Just
what does that mean?
A whinger, someone who's always having a cry about it, like,
oh, a little bitch.
yeah. He's just sulks. He's just sulking for the whole thing until he eventually decides he's going to go and do some battling, and it's like, oh man, you're made to seem way tougher. But, yeah, no, it's really, really good to see. Dante's Inferno, listen to that. So
I got the translated version.
Yeah, I wish I could understand the original. That'd be, to be able to speak so many languages. So I try to learn a bit of Romanian. My wife speaks Romanian really well because she's originally from there, and that's always really impressive just to have two conversations that you can have with like family in there. And I always just think, man, I'm really jealous that you can just switch languages so well. It's the brain so amazing that it can do that stuff. So
I haven't mastered English yet, so
yeah, I love hearing that in bands. In particular, there's this one heavy metal band. It's a Latin band that I got into back in high school called Il Nino, and they mix up. I first heard them when they were.
Patrick, I haven't heard about that band since I was like 16. Oh my gosh.
So I stopped following them after the lead singer and a few other original members left for different reasons. Because I feel, and you guys can disagree with me all you want, I feel like in most cases, if the original singer isn't in it, it changes things. I tried liking the new singer. It doesn't work for me. Because since I was a kid, I have loved this guy, Christian Machado. He's amazing. And he's not in the band anymore. And it's not the same band. There's no soul for me. I mean, I'm shitting on the band, it sounds like, but it doesn't work for me. But the whole point was they mix in Spanish with English. I don't know what the fuck they're saying, but I'm like, this is hardcore. I love it. And Cassie, you know that band too? That's awesome. Most of the times people are like, wow, I've never heard of them, but that's cool.
In South Florida, especially, there's a lot of music that's kind of English and also Spanish.
Okay.
In like all the different genres. So you'll have like rap music like that. You'll have rock music like that. There's a lot of pop music like that. So
it's amazing.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you brought the music thing up. So because I've already throughout this whole thing we've been recording, I've written down. I've been writing down some recommendations. So I have Blackwater, so I'm going to watch that. And then I also have a couple of the books you just recommended. And then when we were preparing for this, I also realized that you were into music and like metal and stuff. And then while I was reading, one of the guys in the book has like a Cannibal Corpse shirt that I have a bunch of Cannibal Corpse shirt from when I was like 15, 16. And that was actually, they were my first concert that I've ever been to. So I wanted to ask you, what are some musical recommendations that you can give to me and us and our listeners? And what kind of things do you like listening to the most in regards to
that? This is always a hard one, I think, simply because, I mean, I'm not actually that huge on Cannibal Corpse myself. But when it comes to metal and horror, they're kind of like the poster boys, and they're so well known, and their shirts are so kind of iconic that I just figured if I'm going to have one, I'm not going to pick some obscure band. It's going to be them. But I find with metal, and it's really hard to make recommendations. And obviously, you Cannibal Corpse and things like that. It's so hard because so many people like it's deep dive stuff. Like you kind of don't really get into the really heavy stuff until you sort of move up incrementally. You can't just sort of start, Slayer, Rain in Blood. You're like, what is that? Look, lately I really, really, really have been loving. I don't know if you see the record on the wall there, Inferi's album Revenant. It's actually what made me go and read Inferno. I mean, it's unless you've been into metal for a while, it's all kind of, it's super technical. The vocals are kind of all Cookie Monster or screaming. There's nothing clean or anything like that. The song structures are long-winded. So it's really progressive, technical death stuff. But to me, that's one that that's really on a pedestal for me. Love the Black Dahlia Murder, Revocation. So a lot of American bands actually are just really killing it right now, and the levels are getting higher and higher. Allegiant or another one are just amazing. And I do like it really quite heavy. Sludge, I found a really cool band as well. So many. I mean, God, where do you start? And some of the names are just, I saw Aborted with the Black Dahlia Murder play a gig, and Black Dahlia Murder are probably one of the all-time faves for me. I just love those guys. They're so tongue-in-cheek with what they're doing. But again, also just blending metal and horror and having fun with it. And I've seen them go so many times. Yeah. So
was that one that you hold on a pedestal? I couldn't make it out.
Inferi, Inferi. I think that's spelled right. Yeah. Inferi. Yeah. I mean, they've got some new stuff coming out. They've like a really kind of Cthulhu-based one, I think. But this one is like it's their take on Dante's Inferno, the guy traveling through the 9 levels of hell. And yeah, it's really progressive, and I just to me, it's a perfect album. There's nothing you could say that needs to be better. Like it's just great. So yeah,
adding it to my list of recommendations.
What about you, Cassie? I feel like you got some pretty good ones that I might not have heard of.
So I listened to in high school. I listened to a lot of like more metal stuff. So I was okay with a lot of the screamier stuff, like where you can't really tell what they're saying. Now I like the screamier stuff where you can understand them, so that I can sing to it, obviously, in my poor fashion. So that's what I do a lot of. So I listen to a lot of screamy music. So it's probably not exactly the same. But like he was saying, how they're bands with like some questionable names and stuff. One of the first bands that I actually saw was Dying Fetus. And I was like 16 and I was asking my mom, can I go see this band? And she's like, are you going to go what? Are you going where? Like, no, I'm not going to allow that. But I mean, she did. And there are a lot of metal bands out there that, like you're saying, the focus isn't necessarily so much on the sound of, I don't want to say even the sound, because it's like it's not really the melody of the voice or like the way that they're presenting the lyrics themselves so much as the music and the stuff that goes into it. So I can appreciate that appreciation for something like the band, the Inferi. I don't know how to say that. Inferi doesn't sound right. That sounds different than I want to say, but I put that on my list and I'm excited to listen to them.
Yeah, I wrote them down too. I got a few that I'd recommend that you guys might not know about. Besides El Nino, that's a band that I always go to. Their second album, Confession, is one of my favorite albums ever. One of the tracks, How Can I Live, the English version, was on the soundtrack for one of my favorite slashers ever, which is Freddy vs. Jason.
They have such a good soundtrack. The whole thing for that movie.
There's so many good bands in that.
Yes.
Spine Shank. Do you guys know that band, Spine Shank?
I saw them in London in like 2001, maybe.
How was that?
That was awesome. Dry Kill Logic played support actually, so really going back there. But that was a really cool gig. I think I would have been like 20 maybe, 19, 2001. So that was really cool, really impressive. So yeah,
I don't remember the video game. It was an N64 game. I don't remember which one. I want to say it's like, I could be completely wrong, but 1080 Snowboard for the NFL. I think there's a Spine Shank song there too that I really dug. But one of my favorite bands, Seven Dust. I've been a big fan of them for decades, and two more. Askin Alexander is a newer one that I absolutely love. In Flames, actually 3 more, and Fallen in Reverse is a new band for me.
Oh, they're like screamy kind of, right?
They are, and there's some weird rap in it. I don't mean weird
I like
rap.
them. No, I like them. They're good.
They got some solid ones. They got this one called Drug or Drugs, where Corey Taylor does a feature in it. Oh, Corey Taylor, he's yeah, and his other band, Stone Sour, they're really good. Unless you guys have any more questions, I actually have a couple more, but I don't want to interrupt if you guys want to carry this conversation out.
No, I'm
I don't have anything else on this. I just find it funny that most of your favorite bands patter on the Freddy vs. Jason soundtrack. That's pretty hilarious, and I love knowing that about you. Like, that's great. That's one of my favorite soundtracks personally. So
besties.
Okay, take it away with your question.
I am not asking Brennan this because I specifically know he's not really into this genre, which is fine. I don't judge him that much for it.
That much. You know what? You have listened to me prattle on about jazz bassists on the show at least 3 times, so you have your moment in the sun. It's all you, dude.
Thank you. Well, unlike you, I'm a musician that can't emulate the type of musicians I like, so that's fine. I want to steer this conversation to current reads. What are you reading right now? So a little bit different than what would you recommend, but what are you, name 2 or 3 or 1? Zach, sorry, I should have specified this.
That's all right. I just started The Roo. I figured I should get around to reading that one.
All 3 of us are in that book.
We are in that book.
Yeah, I think you might have just got punched out. Does that happen to you, Patrick, in there? Or you punched someone out or something like that?
Me and John Lynch, who is a reviewer. I guess I don't know why. I guess we hate each other, so we're fighting. That's the first scene. And I punched John, which would, in case John happens to hear this, and even if he doesn't, would not happen. The dude's a fucking Marine. I've been in one fight in grammar school, if you can call it that. He would kick my ass.
Yeah. I think maybe Steve Stredd just got destroyed by the ring. I can't remember. It's been a week or so. It's been a busy week with a lot of assignments.
Spoiler alert. Brennan's death.
Sorry.
Brennan's death. No, I'm saying for what I'm about to say. Brennan's death is my favorite death of all in that book.
Yeah, mine too. But I'm biased.
I was going to say I'm pretty partial to me being in the book, but I can understand. I can understand the love of Brennan's.
Well, there's one that I like better than mine, but it's a little more spoilery, so I won't go into it. But you'll know it when you see it.
Yeah. Fair enough. But yeah, other than that, I just finished my audio book on Thursday, and being school holidays, I didn't start another one yet because I would have only had 2 hours to listen to it, so it would have been waiting for 2 weeks. Other than that, I mean, I'm halfway through a Don Winslow one as well, which I usually have a paperback around and the Kindle as well.
Is that his
name? No, it's one of his older ones, Frankie Machine, something like that.
I'm not familiar.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's typical. Winslow's a mob guy, and there's cops, and they're telling mob stories and killing each other. It's pretty standard. I don't think it's anything on the Force. I thought that book was fantastic. But yeah, that's basically all I'm reading at the moment. Because as I said, I've hit that. Just finished Moby Dick and haven't started another one yet. So.
I wanted to talk about Moby Dick super duper quick. I was just at a I don't even know what the hell it was, a super big yard sale with a bunch of people. But there's this one guy who's selling In the Heart. Was it In the Heart of the Sea? Is that the title?
Yep.
Yeah, and I saw that movie when it came out, and I just thought it was so funny because again, it's Massachusetts based, and I think it's so neat to listen to. I assume those are accurate accents from that era. It's like old colonial New England accents, and they're just seeing Thor do that shit. It's so weird, and you got Tom Holland in there. It's just it's neat. I like it, but to think that you as a person can take on a massive mammal with a stick and a pointy end. You're out of your fucking mind.
Yeah, man.
So Zach, you said that book was a bit of a slog for you, but is that your final word for it? Was it worth the slog?
Look, yeah, it's worth it. I mean, let's be honest. The book it's a classic, and it's a classic for a reason. What I found really interesting about it though was like, I really don't need to know the mechanics of everything on YouTube, and that gets a bit tedious. And I could be wrong with this, but that olden time style of telling and not showing a lot of the time is kind of can be pretty like, okay, yeah, cool. You're summarizing. You're not really summarizing, but then like it's sort of about 3/4 in, to belly of the whale territory. You're kind of getting really like, oh my God, just get on with it.
Finally, here.
Yeah, that final chapter hits, and it's an amazing final chapter. And, and like the symbolism and everything that's going on, it's just, you're like, okay, yeah, all right. And kind of a bit relieved that it's over. I tried to read it years ago and didn't get too far. And I thought, no, I'm driving to work. It's there in the library app, and I'm going to I'm all out of Kindle credits or Audible credits. So let's see what I can get from the library. And Frank Muller is the narrator. I don't know if you've ever listened to the Dark Tower audiobooks, but he does a lot of those, and he's just
Brennan doesn't like that series.
I've never listened to the audiobooks. No, we'll just ignore Pat because he's just spewing shit over there. It's funny because I agree with you. That final chapter is just like, and I wonder if that kind of, that's one of the reasons why it's a classic is you forget about the like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages you pushed through to get to that last chapter.
Yeah.
You were saying, you got to a point where you're like, I don't need to know all these mechanics. And what I always found baffling was that the anatomy of like whale skeletons and the way that ships were constructed, even ships that aren't necessary to the plot, got their own chapters, and they were like 100-page chapters. I always found it strange that it wasn't just extra information inserted into the story. It was like, we're going to pause the story so you can read a fucking textbook for a while.
It's literally like a textbook with a few bits of story in it. And
yeah.
So yeah, but hey, that final chapter that hits, and you're like,
it was good.
All was forgiven. So yeah.
All right, very cool. Cassie, what are you currently reading? I can't talk.
So right now I'm reading obviously a Christopher Pike book, and also actually one of the Rewind or Die books that we were talking about earlier. Well, not one of the ones we mentioned earlier, but from the series we mentioned earlier. Hairspray and Switchblades by V. Castro. Nice. I'm reading that one right now. I'm actually starting it tonight, so I'm excited about it because I love the cover, and I've heard that it's a lot of fun. So the whole series has been great, and I've loved all the books I read from it so far.
Very cool. Brennan.
Oh man. So since I just answered this question last night, I'm gonna see if I can come up with something new. You know what? I'm reading the third book in Danielle Barnett's Nightmare Land series. It's the other ones were like around the 100-page mark. This one's closer to 200, and he has promised that it's going to be kind of one of those like, oh shit installments. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. But I probably won't read it after we're done here, and I won't start that tonight because I'm in Massachusetts and it's late. I'm not in California or in Australia where it's tomorrow.
Yeah.
Pat, how about you?
I'm almost halfway through Essential 6 stuff. I'm going to dedicate many hours tomorrow to finish that before we talk to Ronald Kelly tomorrow night. That's the only one I'm focusing on. So just so in case any Stephen King nerds are out there and like, hey, fuck Brennan for not liking it, I was kidding. He loves that series. It's his favorite Dark Tower series.
Nobody was listening to you chiming in.
All right. Well, moving on. I did want to bring up one thing, especially since Cassie is on here. It would only be appropriate to bring up her new podcast that comes out. The airing of this day will be September 24th for your episode, Zach. Exactly 1 week after that will be the airing of not only our special on the Pikecast crew coming on to talk with us, but it is what else? Cassie, can you tell us about it?
Wait, what date did you give just now?
So a week from the 24th is, sorry,
yes,
I got a calendar.
October 1st.
Yep.
Yes, so that's actually the first day that we're going live. We're premiering the Pikecast. Is a book club podcast dedicated to Christopher Pike, and I am 1/3 of the co-hosts, and it's my first time, other than here right now, co-hosting anything with people, so I'm very excited about it. But it's probably going to take up a lot of my reading over the next bit because he has a lot of books, and we're going to be sharing episodes every 2 weeks. So yeah, we're also going to have guests. So Zach, if you like any Pike books in the future, want to check them out, hit me up.
There you go. I don't really know Christopher Pike too well. I was a Goosebumps guy, so yeah.
That's okay. You'll love it. I promise. It's fine.
I think those are fighting words.
Yeah, maybe.
He just like opens his jacket and he's wearing a Goosebumps shirt.
I know. And then I'm over here with my Pike merch and I'm like, wait a minute. We have to do battle now.
The co-hosts are also Becca Futrell and Cooper Beck. I'm gonna fuck his last name up. Cooper Beckett. I was gonna say Beckett, but I'm like, oh, is it? Cooper Beckett. I apologize, sir. I'm looking towards that. Me and Brennan listened to the preview episode. I like it. It's a good show. You guys introduce yourselves. It's fun. You guys make it interesting. And one more thing. There is going to be, and still as the date of this recording, you will have one almost full week to submit a short story to Deadhead Reviews. We have a short story contest where there is oodles of prizes, one of them being a guest on this show, another having a short story piece edited by L. Turbot, who is a fully endorsed editor by myself. And on the panel of judges will be L. Turpitz, S.H. Cooper, Rich Gerlach, myself, Brennan, and Cassie. So for more information, go to deadheadreviews.com, go on the tab that says Content Submissions. And from there, it's pretty self-explanatory. Zach, we appreciate your time, and I just wanted to point out one thing. Not to suggest otherwise to previous guests, but your intelligence on literature itself, honestly, it's noticeable, and I think it's awesome, and it comes out in your work, which makes me inclined to want to further read things by you. Besides the fact that it was just fun, like you're very self-aware of what you're, at least how I perceived it, of what you're writing and the goal of why you're writing it.
Oh, thanks, man. That's I've never a good compliments like that. Thank you. Appreciate it very much.
I mean, that's how I see. I assume you teach too.
Yeah, try to. And
you're generally just since I've talked to you online and in person, you've been nothing but a very nice guy. So that's why I like doing video. People are just gonna hear this, but I assure you, he's been smiling most of the time.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
Thanks for your time, Zach. We appreciate it. And where can people follow you?
Obviously, there's the Twitter, which I guess if you search Zachary Ashford, I'll come up. I think it's Ashford_Zachary is the @ I have a website, which probably needs a little more due care, ZacharyAshford.com. And that's basically it. I keep it really simple. I did sort of mess around with the Facebook in the very early days, but it's too much work. And I don't want to do more work. So just the Twitter is there, and I try to use that for promotional stuff and not keep it too personal and
of course
go from there, I guess. So that's basically it.
And that is Zachary spelled Z-A-C. Oh, sorry, you want to do it?
I was going to say Z, but ZZ ACHARY, and then Ashford is ASHFORD.
We've had a great time talking, man. We appreciate your time. Brennan, thank you for joining me as always. Cassie, you knocked it out of the park. Not surprised. As our first guest host, it means a lot to us. Me and Brennan put some real thought into who we wanted to do this, and you killed it. So thank you so much for being here with us. And tomorrow, not chronologically for when these episodes are released, but recording-wise, we'll be talking to you with Cooper and Becca tomorrow for the Pikecast interview or conversation, however you want to see it. And we're excited for that. And listeners, thank you for joining us. As always, have a good time, or day, or night, or morning. Bye.
Nailed it.